اللي عليه صلوات الله عليه.
Alhamdulillah, we hope you enjoyed that beautiful documentaries. The first one, which is the Andalus, the history of Spain, which we concluded today. We started some days ago, and then Muslim in the United States of America. That's an interesting documentary. We will be showing a documentary for a couple of days to come, inshallah. Welcome back to your favorite segment, which is living in the month of Ramadan. And then today, inshallah, we shall follow our normal tradition by having an invited guest in the studio. So we have with us today a known face on living in the month of Ramadan. This will be his first appearance for Ramadan 1435 Hijrah on living the month of Ramadan. Then we hope to have him, inshallah, for a couple of more episodes. But for today, I have with me, doctor in view, my brother Sheikh Ustaz Abdullah Shuaib, the Executive Director of Zakat and Sadaqah Foundation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sorry, I won't be able to extend my hands to shake you from that angle. You're welcome to this year episode
Thank you.
Ramadan. We want to look at financial prudence, what we call shunning the art of extravagance. Today, all over the world tend to be extravagant in their way of spending, living, and as compared to the way of life of simplicity, particularly when we look at the life of our predecessors, our leaders in Islam, the companions. So let's start. Let us first of all define what we think should be, or an alternative. To me, I see that topic, avoiding the art of extravagance. What is extravagance? How could one be extravagant, either in spending or living?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-mursalin. Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Thank you very much, presenter, for inviting me here.
Alhamdulillah.
And I also say to all the viewers, Ramadan Kareem, to those who are hearing us also as well. Coming back to the question you asked, extravagance. Well, from the owner of the language which we are using, extravagancy is an act of excessive spending, such that what you spend is in the extreme end more than what you make, what you gain. And this also can be related to what is tangible and what is intangible. What is tangible is we are talking of the physical wealth that we are spending. The intangible one is even when you talk excessively, you talk too much. By extension, it's also an act of extravagance, because you talk reasonably a little and people understand you, rather than talking blah 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 blah. At the end of the day, somebody will say, I have not seen any substance in what he has been saying or if she has been saying a lot. So we can look at it from that two ways. So in a nutshell, when we talk about extravagancy in this case, we are talking of being at the extreme of managing the resources given to you, overspending it beyond what is reasonable and what can even add more values to the spender as well as the beneficiaries.
Yeah, for the sake of clarity, to me, I derive two understanding from the definition. The first one is when you spend beyond your income. The second one is when you overspend. Overspend is such that your income will even be bigger than what you spend. But so is it possible for one to be extravagant even when you have enough? You have enough, and what will be the benchmark?
Okay.
between spending, overspending, and spending beyond what you have?
Well, from your question you've asked, if somebody is so rich, he can or she can still engage in extravagance. When you spend on frivolities, these are things that will not add value to you.
What you don't even need.
It will not add value to your family members. These are things that, having additional, input of these things will not give you any necessary satisfaction other than you want to belong to the class.
Ego.
That is ego. You want to belong to the class. Status. You want to be seen to be, yes, the boys have arrived. Or the men, when they are talking, the boys should keep quiet. So you begin to indulge in extravagances.
Why did you buy this car? It's the
So,
latest car.
for example, to me, I find it crazy when somebody says, in my wardrobe, I have over 100, 200, shoes, pairs of shoes. I have over 1,000, 2,000 different designer, suit, shirt here and there. I begin to ask, is this not extravagance? Yes, you have the means. But
When there are people outside.
how many of these clothes will you even wear in the next 2 years? You will not even touch them. And yet you begin to start boasting and shouting that you have this, you have that. What is extravagance? Because the money given to you is a trust. You must give account of it. How you acquire the wealth, Islam says we are going to question you about it. Where you are spending the wealth again, we are going to question you about it. So the right to acquire and the right to spend is an exclusive preserve of Allah. He has not given it to the person who has the wealth in his custody. He's a custodian, a trustee. There are multitudes, millions, thousands, millions, hundreds who cannot even afford, a little of what you think you have in excess. Part of it is also in this part of the world where we are. You see somebody, he has Go TV, he has DSTV, he has Star Times, he has the satellites, he has Nine, he has all these things. You begin to ask, for goodness sake, what is it that you want to watch that you can't get in DSTV, you can't get in
Do you
Star
even
Times?
have the time to start?
Yeah, then even the time, is it there? But you want to acquire them because it is going to add to your status so that people will know that, oh, that guy, forget it, he's one in town. This is an act of extravagance. And there are many Quranic verses that teaches against that. For example, when you want to spend, the Quran tells us in Quran chapter 25, verse 67, Surah Al-Furqan, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. Those, the believers are those who, when they want to spend, they don't spend extravagantly, neither are they niggardly, but they are in the middle course. This is the way Allah describes the true believers. In Quran chapter 17, from verse 26 to 27, it also warns. It says, وَلَا تُبَذِّرُ تَبْذِيرًا إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ شَيَاطِينَ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Allah says, do not waste. Don't squander unnecessarily. Because squandering or wasting, extravagancy, is an act of Satan. And those who indulge in this are the brothers of Satan. Because Satan to his Lord is ungrateful.
ولا تجعل يداك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوما محظورا.
Allah also warns in that particular verse. So we can go on to start citing so many verses or chapters in the Quran that warns against this. And this is also inclusive of whether you are a rich person or you are a poor person.
Okay, from your definition again, you cited two examples, the tangible and the intangible. Inshallah, we'll be talking more of the tangible. Let's look at a bit of the intangible example. How can one be extravagant, spending his time talking and the rest like that? Although you've given an example by saying that when you talk too much, so what will be the benchmark? How will you see? How will you be able to say, okay, I'm talking too much? And the time also inclusive.
Well, you see, one of the most valuable resources, Allah has given to man is time. And intellectuals made us to understand, and religious scholars also made us to understand that time is one factor or commodity that does not have alternative. So it's like a double-edged, sword. If you don't use it very well, it will cut you. It doesn't have any alternative. If you think you have an alternative, you are spending the time of another important responsibility or assignment, which you discover that at the end of the day, you are going to be a loser. So when somebody indulges in time-wasting act that has not increased you in knowledge, it has not increased you in virtue, it has not impacted positively in the life of the people you have interacted with, you have indulged in extravagancy of your time. Great scholars like Imam Hassan al-Banna, may Allah's mercy be upon him, he says that al-waqtu wal-hayat wal-wajibatun aktharu min al-awqat. Time is life, which is your life. So if you don't spend it judiciously, it's like you are cutting away part of your body gradually. And the responsibility at our disposal are much more than the time you think you have control of. That is why if you see somebody who is very, very busy, he will tell you, time flies so fast.
I don't have time.
I don't have time. Just like us, we are on air now. You discover that before you even trash many of the questions you have, your producer will tell you, please round up, time up. That is to tell you how important time is. But if somebody is less busy, he thinks he has the whole of the time at his disposal and he wastes. Coming to somebody that talks, you see, Kalam al-Basit, very brief and concise, discussions that you hit the point directly to the people who are listening to you is much more better than beating around the bush, repeating yourself, talking and saying so many irrelevancies. That is an act of wastefulness of one's talk and time. And even the people who are even listening to you will feel somehow this person should just round up and just, go off. Yeah. And that is what a lot of people indulge in. And even beyond this, you also see so many people today who have made it a trade in stock. They call themselves jesters. People who crack jokes here and there, engage people. They just irrelevancies. Some even, tell lies, but because it's going to make people to laugh and then, crack their ribs, then they engage people.
I'm sorry, I have to come in here. In our own particular case, in Nigeria, people think we need maybe for relaxation, nothing is working well, and psychologists also recommend that in this type of situation, in order to take away stress, because when you look at the situation we have in Africa, particularly in Nigeria today, one could just fall into depression. So if such outing, such occasion take away the heat from people, and when you have an opportunity to just, how do you think you can justify that with regards to what you said? We agree that yes, it's time wasting effort, but it works, at least for Nigeria. Sometimes you see people going there with filled with sorrow, and then they come out laughing the way they are so.
It shows how we attach values to our time. And again, somebody may argue that the value you attach to your time is different from the value I attach to my own time. But I'm looking at it purely from the point of view of Islam.
Okay.
So I'm not talking generally from the secular world. So because many instances where people go for such things, you discover that what the person is talking are blatant lies completely. Yeah. And Islam wants us against doing that. Yeah. So of what value is it that I get a very temporary relief here and then destroy my salvation in the hereafter? So this is the argument. This is my argument from the point of view.
Okay, let's go back to the tangible issues we are talking of. So about financial prudences. Now the Quran has given us an example that we have to maintain the middle course.
Yeah.
So how do we judge the middle course? How do we know? Okay, now we are on the middle course, or maybe we should look at the life of our predecessors, the way they spend. I think much is attached to the perception, how one perceives wealth. So how do we know that we are maintaining that middle course?
You see, if you start from the Arab world to the Middle East, coming down to us here, part of extravagancy is, I will just take a case study for us. We want to eat. Islam attaches a lot of importance to financial prudence, managing your resources very well, because you are going to be subjected to account. He doesn't want us to waste. For example, somebody wants to eat. He is going to first take the appetizer. He's going to take the real meal. And he's going to now take the dessert.
Supplementary.
Or some people call it supplementary, then you take the dessert. Now, when you look at all this, each of the meal is taking itself is a food.
On its own.
On its own. Such that if the multitude have an opportunity of just one, they are okay.
You give glory to Allah.
They give glory to Allah. Now, assuming, okay, God has blessed you, you have the resources. Good. And you want to take it. Why don't you take it a little? So that you don't, at the end of the day, you don't have left over on your table. Because an act of extravagancy is when you put food on a table that you know ordinarily you cannot consume, you cannot finish. The leftover, nobody is going to eat it. This is what we discover in many homes. It will be thrown away into the waste bin. Why there are a lot of people in other climates who cannot even afford to buy food, they talk less of even drink. Such foods can serve other people who are poor in your immediate neighborhood.
Please, before you go further, I learned something in Malaysia. There is this group that feed the poor. Called it, I don't know, I've forgotten the name. I'm going to remember. It's an NGO. What they do is they go to all the available restaurants and they collect leftover food, not leftover food. So they mix them. If it is rice with rice, beans with beans, and porridge with porridge, then leftover food, cooked food, they take it away from there and then repackage it and take it to the suburb. I mean, they use it to feed the poor. Thousands of people.
It's not only in Malaysia. It has been replicated in other parts of the world also. I'm aware something like this similar is also happening in Sudan. They go to restaurants. This is where you see a lot of wastefulness. People go to restaurants, they buy food. Why don't you buy the little one that you know you can finish? But they buy it, and then by the time they start eating, halfway they are okay. They just leave the half. In the past, what used to happen is that the waiters will just come, pack everything, trash them.
Waste bin.
Waste. This is waste.
I even observed that some of them might be able to finish the food.
It's status.
As a result of status and ego.
You know, because they consider it as indecent and uncultured.
That you finish
that when you
food.
eat, you mustn't finish everything. You must leave leftovers.
To show that you have the money.
That is wastefulness.
You can afford it.
That is wastefulness, because the Creator who gave this word to us does not want us to waste it. He wants us to make sure that we manage it judiciously. So that is why so many of these NGOs have come on board. They do this thing neatly, such that the people they are giving it to will not even know that these are leftover food. And because they have an agreement with the owners of the restaurant for them to repackage it and then take it to these less privileged
Now,
people.
you mentioned something about Sudan, and then I also give an example of Malaysia. And so people will give examples of so many Middle Eastern countries. These are supposedly Muslim, Islamic majority countries. Why is it like that? If this warning, like we give examples from Quranic verses, is coming from Allah, we ought to be the shining example to the world that they should not be extravagant. Why do you think? What is the cause of that?
The cause of what?
Of being extravagant in those Muslim countries?
Well, you see, we don't tend to appreciate the rahmah of Allah. That is number one. We don't tend to appreciate it because God has given it to us, without we asking for it. If you look at the geography of the world, discover that most of these countries, particularly the Middle East, countries where Muslims are in the majority, Allah has endowed such places with abundant mineral resources. These are countries where Muslims are rich. Their countries are rich. Yet when you look at the individual living in such country, majority of them are poor. So those who are rich don't seem to appreciate the realm of Allah. Allah gave us free sight. We can see with our naked eye. He has not asked us to make any payment. He has given us the faculty of hearing. We use it to hear. We have not paid for it. We breathe free oxygen, fresh free oxygen. Some people in the hospitals, they pay dearly to procure oxygen. But we are breathing it free. He has not asked us to pay for it. But what he wants us to, to do as a compensation is to manage these resources where we waste the rahmah of Allah. So that is one. Two, we have mentioned it, status, class stratification. It is the poor man that will eat, put food on the table, that will consume everything. But the rich man must distinguish himself that I'm a rich man, and then he will eat little and then trash the remaining inside the waste garbage, so that when the poor man comes to the garbage, as a scavenger, he must be able to see the value, the worth of the rich man. Because by the time you start seeing those varieties of food, this man must be a very rich man. It is the Satan that is at work. People following the invitation of Satan. And Quran says we must not do that. Because those who indulge in such things, kanu ikhwana shayateen. They are brothers, friends, allies, protectors, and partners with Satan. So this is also one of the reasons. And until we come back to the Quranic text, to follow the laws of Allah, to manage the resources Allah has given to us, to equally absorb ourselves away from those questions that might likely not make us to go scot-free, then we must be able to be in the middle course. وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَّامًا. It is not only about food, mind you. You discover somebody that has like fleets of cars, exotic cars. I have been to Europe, I've been to America, I've been to so many European countries. Hardly will you see the rich man that has fleets of cars. He doesn't need it. Because even the system does not allow it.
Because he pays tax.
He has to pay tax. Even the nature of the car you even buy will determine what you are going to pay. You understand me? It makes sense.
The bigger the engine.
The bigger the engine, the higher the tax you pay. Because it makes sense. The money they are going to collect will be used to provide more infrastructure that will benefit the whole people. But it is only where you come to developing world that you find, somebody has, fleets of exotic cars. When you talk of Nigeria, or somebody has, uncountable number of houses, how many are you going to stay in? Or even the only one you are even staying in, you build castles, such that even when you die, your children cannot even maintain the house. They can't maintain it. I've seen so many of such people that even when they pass away, their children cannot maintain what they inherited, because it is beyond what they can manage. Even before they even pass away, you discover a man that has maybe 3 or 4 children. Your children eventually might not even like the model of the house you have built.
Or they are not even in the country.
Even if they are in the country, they might not even like it because they will think it does not even suit their own taste during their own time. Then you are left alone with your wife in a very big mansion. You only occupy maybe just a room. Then what happens to the big mansion in terms of maintenance here and there? So all these things, they make sense. When Quran says don't be at the extreme end, be in the middle course. Do it. God has given you the word, but be mindful that the word given to you is for the betterment of the multitude. You are a custodian. It's not just your. And the Quran says, and the Hadith also says it, whatever you spend out of that wealth to eat, to clothe yourself, is rightly your own. The remaining one here, they belong to the poor people and the needy people and your relatives here and there, so that you use it judiciously to better their life, rather than squandering them on things that are ephemeral. These are material things that either you will leave them or they will leave you. And I will give you a very practical example that is very funny. I remember one year I was in Saudi, and this man from Nigeria, in quotes, among the wealthy people, had this very big exotic jeep, latest in town, and he left a warning when he was leaving Nigeria for Saudi that on no account should that jeep be taken out. He must leave it where he has parked it so that nobody will take it out and then bash it here and there. But when he got to Saudi Arabia, you know what happened? He saw the exact jeep being used for commercial purpose for 2 riyal. The man was humbled. So he said, what I thought was a big thing, so here it was even used for commercial. 2 riyal, people were entering it.
Haram,
2 riyal. Immediately he called home. He said, if there is need for the people to use, please, they should not hesitate to use it. That is what Allah wants us to feel. The word is there, but let us be humble. Let us use it to better the lot of people who are in need, rather than using it, to circulate around the same elitist, class club. You can imagine somebody wants to do wedding anniversary or wedding, party for his daughter or for his son, and tells you that I have spent over 50 million naira to organize this wedding. 50 million for wedding, for goodness sake, when a lot of people are suffering. And that is why we are having crisis in our community. Because there's no way such things will happen that we will not experience this the kind of crisis we are experiencing today. Because this thing is not circulating. And even when we spend stupendiously, we are not spending on areas that will impact positively in the life of the people who are the lower strata of the society.
Jazakumullah khairan for that bit of example. But before I introduce the phone call, I also want to add this to that your example. He said a rich man, it happened, this real, was traveling, and then he told his aide when they got to an area, he said, look at that house. He said, yes sir. He said, when we get back home, I want to make inquiries about the house. Let's buy it. I really like the area and the house. And then the head said, sorry sir, which house? I said, the one I just pointed out. Didn't you see me? He said, I saw you sir, but we are the owner of that house.
You can imagine.
He did not even
He did not even know that it belongs to him. It means he has so many houses that he doesn't even know.
Oh, alhamdulillah, you just joined us. This is during the month of Ramadan. We are talking about financial prudency or shunning the act of extravagance or extravagancy. I have with me, discussing this topic into details, the Executive Director of Zakat and Sadaqah Foundation. Now we want to introduce the phone call. We want to open the line. We know you would like to also participate in this discussion. This discussion is very, very important at this time in Nigeria. The number to call is on your screen, 08033297441. And if you happen to be successful with your call, please turn down the volume of your TV set, which I think is the best, or you move away from it. And then tell us your name and where you are calling from. It's very important. We want to know where you are calling from. Madam, I don't know. I'm sorry. I just want to be a bit personal. Your foundation. What do you think your foundation has a role? Zakat and Sadaqah Foundation. So, what do you think there is a role that your foundation can play, or there's a role your foundation is playing in helping people to be prudent, in sensitizing them to the evil of extravagance, telling them this is what you should do, or about a typical Nigerian, typical rich Nigerian tends towards extravagance.
You are right. We have been sensitizing and creating this awareness, but particularly when it comes to zakat assessment, because we normally tell people when you want to pay zakat, you must have two sides, on your template, the income side and the expenditure side. And our experience over the years has shown that some of these rich people always want to be evasive from paying zakat. So that's why they always try to populate the expenditure side of their template, so that the more they populate it, the more it will knock out, whatever is going to be the net balance of their wealth, so that they don't want to pay zakat.
Who are they deceiving?
Well, the issue of zakat.
We have a call out the line. Hello, salam alaikum.
Okay.
Salam alaikum.
Hello.
Your name and where you are calling from, please.
Hello.
Wa alaikum salam to Allah wa barakatuh. Your name and where you are calling from.
My name is Ismail Adebayo. Hello, my name is Ismail. My name is Ismail Adebayo.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is... Okay. Yeah, I'm calling from the mainland.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Let's have your contribution or question.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Okay. Yeah, my question is this. in a situation where you are trying to help the poor man, you are putting it down. And at the end of the day, all this your effort, like they are making, it's like they are making them for them. Would you want to wait?
I'm sorry,
Just-
your voice is not clear enough. I think maybe some it has to do with the connection. We can't hear you very well. It's part
Yeah.
of the problem.
Yeah, we were talking about what
Sensitizing what the rich man-
So we normally tell them, look, even though God has given you this wealth, and I cited an example of somebody that has maybe 3 different satellites in his house. Tell them, I said, this is excess. You don't need it. See, the recharge you are paying to sustain that satellite, could have provided meal, and could have solved the financial need of a poor family, because for every month you keep sustaining each of those satellite that you have in your home, it is in excess. And in fact, you also look at it that in a month perhaps you only have maybe a week or so to even sit to
A week.
I'm just saying for the purpose of
Okay.
argument's sake,
Okay.
to even access those things. At the end of the day, you just keep paying, Why don't you limit yourself to what you know, basically, that these are essentials? In your office, you have the same thing that you have at home, you have them in your office. Understand me? So that is just one, an example of how we tell them. And of course, you have fleets of cars. You are going to pay comprehensive insurance on each of those cars. They cost a lot of money to even maintain them. So this money you are spending on such things could have provided.
Not to talk of the fact that
You are going to fuel it also.
would be useful for somebody else.
Of course.
Why don't
So
you give it out?
these are examples that normally we tell them. God has given you this wealth, but He has equally, enumerated for you ways through which you can spend those wealth, that you bring back more barakah, more rahmah, blessings and mercies unto you, and it will also be an investment that will never depreciate on your malikiyama, on your credit. We normally tell them this. On the other hand, it is not only the rich people that engage in extravagance, even the poor people also engage in extravagance. You can imagine a poor man who finds it difficult to pay the school fees of his child or his wife, now also joining the bandwagon effect to now buy what people call, for example, maybe a social gathering. We call it Ashwebi in this part of the world. People have to buy a certain garment which has been bought by a group. And how much is it? They will tell you, the 4 years you are going to use it for a man will cost you nothing less than maybe about 40,000.
Some go on
50,000.
loan.
Some will even go to the extent of even taking loans, and they know they don't have the means of paying back. You have not paid your child's school fees, but you can afford to take loan to buy a shoe. For goodness sake, that is extravagance. Going beyond what your limits can take you. Or because you saw a friend of yours, you grew up together, he's living in a 3-bedroom flat, and you say at all costs you two want to be like him, and your means of sustenance, even your gross, not even your net, cannot pay room and parlor. Because we on our foundation, we receive such letters. We see so many people writing to us for accommodation, and then when we sit them down to ask them, what is the source of your income? How much are you making per annum? We discover that these are people living above their means. For goodness sake, you are living above your means. A family of maybe 5 children, with the husband, with the wife, making 7. And for goodness sake, all your income, the gross, not even the net, per annum, is roughly maybe above 300 to 400,000 naira. How can you be able to sustain living in a 2-bedroom flat, 3-bedroom flat, living in Lagos for that matter?
Of $500,000.
Yes, $500,000. For goodness sake. So we normally tell and say, look, why are you living above your means? You are creating more problem for yourselves. Why don't you start from a level where you can manage, and when you work very hard, Allah will open the door of His rahmah for you, and then you keep growing. So both the rich and the poor also engage themselves in extravagancy. So people needs to be talked to, people needs to be made to understand that, look, Allah says, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. for the poor man. Then for the rich man, the Quran warns that when they spend, they are not israf. They don't engage in israf, wastefulness. Neither are they going to be niggard.
ومن قدر عليه رزقه
فلينفق مما آتاه الله لا يكلف الله إلا ما آتاه سيجعل الله بعد عسر يسرا. Allah says people spend in accordance with the what Allah has endowed them with. And when you do this, also the Quran has put a caveat there: don't go to the extreme. And also, because we said don't go to the extreme doesn't mean you should be tight-fisted. That spend when the need arises, particularly when you are spending to add values to the life of the people.
Let's just briefly look at the life of our predecessors to shine just a very small example to the topic of discussions. It baffles me when I read the Sirah and then the perception of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ about this. Firstly, about this life. Secondly, about the contents of life, wealth inclusive. The way they perceive it, they don't see themselves as a rights possessor, as an exclusive possessor of the wealth. Instead, they see themselves as a distributor, but not the possessor. So whenever anybody comes to knock at their door and say, they will say, okay, you want to claim your right? Okay, sorry, I'm just a postman. The letter does not belong to me, it's yours, take. And sometimes they go after people. They don't wait for people to come to them and say, they go after them, saying that, no, I'm in charge of distributing the wealth. Come and take your rights. Don't put it on my neck.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let me just cite some cases here. Let me start with a woman, one of the mothers of the faithful, Aisha radiallahu anha. I read about her history, and there was a day she was giving, she was given an amount in excess of 100,000 dirham. You can't believe that she distributed everything to the less privileged people. She was just asking attendant, give me XYZ amount. This person will come, she will give. She gave out everything without any leftover. And when it was time for her to break her fast,
she was fasting that day.
She was fasting.
And she had forgotten that she did not leave anything for herself.
Then the attendant now told her, I said, look, if you had even left some for us, we would have used that to even break fast. Aisha did not even remember. She distributed everything to the less privileged people. These are people, our forebears, who did not attach any excessive importance to materialism, to material things of this world. If it comes their way, they redistribute. They share it among their people. And they don't even consider themselves as the rightful beneficiaries. Because the Quran says, وَيُثِيرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ خَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. Even though they themselves, they have the need for it, but they prefer to give preference to their brothers and sisters first before themselves. Even though they are in need, they have the right for that thing. So this concept of giving preference to others, to impart positively, to add values to their life, made them the best of all people you can always make reference to in this world. You look at Salman al-Farisi, who eventually became a governor himself. When he told people to build a house for him, he specifically instructed the architect, what kind of house are you going to build? And he said, I'm going to build a house such that even when you stand, it will be slightly above your head. So that even when you lie down, it will be slightly, wider than, your total length. You understand me? And in spite of all this, when Salman was about to pass away, he was still feeling some sense of pain that this wealth he has acquired. And the companion were asking him, what wealth have you acquired? He said, in kettle and in plate, with which he used utensils, with which he used to eat, and the praying mat that he had nothing beside these items, which to him he still considered as if these are excesses. So the level of the fear of Allah they had, and the level of their concern for others people, is such that you begin to ask, are they really human beings? Are these not special species on the surface of the earth? But wallahi, they are human beings.
Because when we look at their life before accepting Islam,
Because they were born with silver spoon in their mouth. Are we going to talk about Musa bin Umair, who was born with a silver spoon from a very rich family, such that even in a day before Musa accepted Islam, when he leaves house in the morning, the cloth he was going to wear in the afternoon will be different from the one he wore in the morning, and the one he was going to put on in the night will be different from the one he wore in the in the day, such that even people always like to associate with him because he was born with a silver spoon. But with Islam, he realized that those things were trusts given to him. He learned how to share with people. But his family were against him because they felt, no, this person is not portraying this family in a good limelight. And the mother felt she could, sanction him economically. So economic sanction was placed on him. Embargo was placed on him. But he never mind. He was obsessed with the faith he had acquired, and he was okay with the life he was living. So there are so many of them that they actually saw this wealth coming, but they knew the limits they could not go beyond. They knew the limit. Islam is not against acquiring wealth.
okay.
Because the Quran says, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. It says, don't forget your portion of the wealth of this world. That is what Quran says in Quran chapter 28, verse 77. But at the same time, the Quran also regulates.
In fact, the beginning of that verse
Yes.
says, وَابْتَغِي
فِيمَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. Says, seek your own, seek those things that Allah has provided for us. So we are not saying on this platform that Islam is against the acquiring wealth or having wealth or being rich. No, if you have it, it is an amana, it is a trust. Take the portion that will satisfy you. Take the portion that will take care of your immediate family, your relatives. Take the portion that will be okay for you, so that you will not be in need of people. And then the excess that you have, for goodness sake, let us learn how to share with our neighbors, with the poor, with the needy, with indigent students, with widows, with orphans, even with non-Muslims that are in our immediate neighborhood, because that is why that thing has been given to you as a trustee, and you are still coming back to render account of how those things are. But the reverse is the case. We try to limit it within our family alone. Somebody who has billions is still looking for trillions. Somebody who has trillions is still looking for what? I don't even know how to qualify it. And the thing is there. And that is the nature of man. Because that is what the Quran says. إِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Quran says, أَلْهَاكُمْ تَكَاثُرٌ حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرُ كَلَّا سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. We always vie, we always compete, rivalry in the accumulation of wealth. We keep having it, we keep acquiring it, we keep acquiring it until what? حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرُ. Until when man, even at the point of trying to enter the grave, he still remember that he has an investment. He will tell his children, my investment in XYZ area, please do a follow-up, even when you are about to enter the grave. So that is the nature of man. And that is why Islam has laid for us some mechanism to regulate it, to control it. And that mechanism is zakat. That mechanism is sadaqah. In fact, fi sabilillah, spending in the ways of Allah. So that at the end of the day, you will not be guilty when you teach yourself to the extreme. You acquire it, and then you spend. You say, after all, it is my money. I can spend it the way I like. No, it is wrong. In Islam, it is your money. It is not your money in the first place.
وَآتُوهُم مِّن مَالِ اللَّهِ الَّذِي
Atakum. Give them out of the word that Allah has given to you. That is what
So
the Quran
it's
says.
Allah's
So it is
word.
not your money, it is Allah's word. But you are a custodian, a trustee. So we must correct that notion that it is my money, I can spend any higher. No, it is not your. Even the way you acquire it, you are going to be asked. How you are going to spend, Allah has given you the latitude. He has shown you the ways, but He has given you the latitude of where to put the money in accordance with your desire. So these are things that Islam teaches us as Muslims, and not until we Muslims we go back to the basis to show the world how it is, then we will not get it right. If you go to other climate, developed countries, you will see Islam working. They work Islam, but we talk Islam here. In these advanced countries, they don't engage in extravagances. They don't spend anyhow. They buy what they need. They don't buy what they don't need. They buy what they need. And even when they see you entering maybe a mall and then buying and buying. They are astonished. They think you are from another planet entirely. Understand me? Because these are people who believe that when you work very hard for what Allah has given to you, you must learn how to spend judiciously. So, but how do you know somebody is coming from the third world? If you are in the advanced country, you just follow him to the mall,
And see what he buys.
and then you see how you just be buying and buying even what he doesn't need, what even the system has provided for him. You still buy it again. At the end of the day, maybe you just buy because a friend was there and he wanted to show the friend that we are not in the same class. At the end of the day, you won't use it. So these are things that for me, I think those who are listening to us and those who are hearing us must understand that it is an act of sin to engage in extravagancy, because the Quran warns us specifically against it. And when you indulge in it, you are sinning against your soul, sinning against Allah, and you have trampled into the right of the less privileged, the poor, and the vulnerable. And the earlier, the better we make a U-turn, the better for us in this world and in the hereafter.
Exactly. Before we come to the end of the program, I want us to give advice to this set of people. I overheard them discussing something about wealth acquisition, and then the argument for that in Nigeria is that the system is not working, the right is not given to whom it's due, and then if at the time they are in position, they refuse, and they cited so many examples, they refuse to acquire wealth for themselves, which will eventually be for their wives and their family anyway. That at the point of death, the government will just neglect their family, and then all their sacrifice, their contribution towards the progress of the country, their prudency will just be thrown away. So, and their family will go out begging. People will say, look at that guy, his father was a governor, his father was a commissioner. So that is why they think when they are in position, they will use that position to get what they think is their right for their family. So if the government cares or not, they've already taken their rights. What would be our advice to such type of argument?
I think an evil way does not justify why we must also indulge in evil ways. If some people are doing that which is wrong, doesn't justify that you too should do what is wrong. We must get that very clear. So as Muslims, we must not join the bandwagon effect. And don't forget that Allah, who is the source of wealth, is the source of wealth. Is still there. Is Al-Hayyul Qayyum. Is there. And it says categorically in Quran chapter 65, I think verse 3 or 4, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. These are Quranic verses or verse that will serve as a solace for you. It says, if you fear Allah, if you are really conscious of Allah, when you find yourself in such a situation, Allah will open and provide other sources that wealth will come your way, halal, lawful for you, from even sources that you yourself you did not even anticipate, you did not think of. And if you depend upon Allah, Allah will suffice for you. And Allah's will always come to pass. Nobody can frustrate it. So these are statements of assurance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, that a Muslim is never a loser. And come to it, let's look at it itself. Having all this wealth, does it mean it will give you peace,
No.
satisfaction? No. Of course not. I tell you, so many of the so-called, in quote, rich people will tell you that they are not having what they think that wealth can provide for them. Why do they have ironmongery all over their houses? Why do they have electric wire, barbed wire around their fences? Why do they have CCTV camera? Why do they have private security men? Why do they have security doors here and there? For goodness sake, that is to tell you that something is wrong. Somebody has willingly, out of his own volition, imprisoned himself, made himself a prisoner of himself. He has the word, for goodness sake. Why? because that satisfaction and peace of mind is not there, even though the wealth is there. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu was a governor, the leader of all the Muslims community. When somebody came, a non-Muslim came looking for the leader of the Muslims, they said,
I even call him emperor.
they said, we don't have a king here, but we have an Amir. Okay, I'm looking for your Amir. He said, that is the Amir under the shade of the tree. They are sleeping in the open space. He said, definitely this man must be a just man for him to be sleeping here like this, without any sentinel, without any security, without any ugly, watching him. And when he woke up, the mat on which he slept had already made mark on his body. For goodness sake, these are people that saw wealth. Umar was a rich man, very, very. We can't compare any rich man of the world today. Bill Gates cannot stand, side by side with Umar, because Bill Gates is considered as one of the richest men in the world. Cannot. But yet they humble themselves. They spend that wealth to promote, what we call public good in their community, to add value to a lot of people. So I'm saying to our brothers and sisters that, look, if you don't have the means and the ability to be able to take your right from those who are sitting on your right, petition your case before Allah. Petition your case before Allah, because Allah is Al-Mudabbir. He is the one, Al-Mudabbir al-Qulub. He is the one that controls the soul and the heart of people. Allah will touch their soul, and whether they like it or not, they will do the biddings of Allah to give you your right. But if you think we can fight your cause on your own, then that is when we begin to start deviating to join the bandwagon effect. The community will lure you to join them in doing what is evil. And at the end of the day, you have yourself to blame, because Allah will ask you, have we not given you the faculty of reasoning? Because Allah has given it to us. So, and He has shown us the way, the right way and then the evil way. He has shown you the right way. He has shown you the wrong way. So don't allow them to push you to also join them in following the wrong way. That is what is happening. So petition your case before Allah and then wait for Allah's judgment to come, and which will certainly come. And when it comes, it will be in your own favor. We have seen so many of them who have acquired all these things. At the end of the day, when they thought they wanted to sit down to start, benefiting, Allah will just call them. It is time to come back home. Then you ask, of what value is everything that he has unlawfully amassed, but he has not stayed to enjoy it. So wealth itself does not give us satisfaction or peace, but it is the contentment that you have in your mind that will give you that peace. So richness is not in terms of material one, but richness in terms of contentment of the soul. Al-Ghina, Ghina nafs. So that is my advice to our people, that let us stand by Allah, let us follow the laws of Allah, let us petition Allah against those who are unjustly, blocking our right, and then let us wait for Allah's judgment. Allah will definitely respond, because He has given us the assurance. He said, وَحَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. We have made it incumbent upon ourselves to render assistance to those who believe in us. So these are assurances from Allah. And I personally have seen it. I have so many testimony of people whose right were trampled upon, but when they petitioned Allah, it was the same people themselves who came out in public to apologize, and their rights were restored back. But if they had used all crooks and means ways to say, because people are doing it, let me also do it, then when the right was returned back, inside their mind, they will have been having this guilty conscience that we have done what is wrong, and how do we now atone for those things? Allah will not take, bribe. Allah won't take any bribe from anybody.
I think you agree with me that despite the fact that time is not on our side, we've tried to thrash out the issue. And then what I wanted to take home from this our discussion, everything, yes, it's everything, but summarily I wanted to grab this aspect of al-ghina nafs, that is wealth is of contentment. And we should start teaching our children right from childhood how to be contented, because contentment is not, it's an exercise. You have to teach, you have to go through the training, you have to learn how to be contented. Otherwise you will never be contented, even if you have more than enough. We say Jazakumullah khairan for coming onto the program to
Oh, yeah.
the executive director of Zakata Sadaqah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you.
Allahumma.
Inshallah, we'll be looking forward to have you in our studio.
Inshallah.
And all that.